Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Finance to order, Tuesday, March 30th, 2017. All members present except for Mr. Stevenson, who had previously informed us he would not be able to make it. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I think we agreed to move to extend, and then at our next meeting we will have had time to get caught up.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is public hearing on the general government budget or the town budget. Just trying to get organized here. If it's not a problem, I think I'd like to ask if there's members of the staff that would like to say a few words, that they go ahead, and then we can have the members of the public who are signed up. Did I understand that we're some? If you'd like to go ahead. Yeah, hopefully the microphone is, you just have to make the red button go up.
How's that? Good?
Yep.
So I'm Tammy from the Animal Shelter Director. So I'm just coming to talk to you about the increase that I requested for the animal coordinator. So we're increasing her from 25 hours to 30. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about why we wanted that increase and ask you to keep in mind that the shelter is the only other building besides the police department that is open 7 days a week, okay? So I'm asking for 5 additional hours per week for the animal shelter coordinator. She's in charge when I'm out of the office, so if I'm not there, she in a sense does my duties as well as hers. She assists in all the organizing of schedules for volunteers and paid staff alike, completes the adoptions, impoundments, inquiries, assists in all aspects of coordinating anything to do with the animal shelter. She's been vital in coverage if I'm away, now taking on the additional role of the town grant administrator part-time. She also fills in when I'm not there. So we've asked to increase her hours by 5 from 25 to 30. We have 2 other staff that are 10 hours a week, 1 other that's 25, and that's it for the 7 days a week. So I'm just coming to you to ask you to keep in mind that we're only asking for 5 more hours for her. So, and we are open 7 days a week. Okay?
Other staff members, please. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Dave Thompson, I'm the town assessor. I'm looking to institute the statistical revaluation money, which is an interim revaluation, and it's something that the state is looking to initiate for all the towns throughout Rhode Island. And it's hopefully coming up in the next couple of years. Right now we're on a cycle where we do a statistical revaluation every 3 years, and then a full revaluation in the 9th year. That 9th year is coming up for us in 2018, but an interim revaluation of this type, where it's just based on statistical sales, would give the town a larger grand list We've seen sales go up throughout the last year and a half since our last statistical revaluation. The sales so far this year, we have 86 sales, and that's up 10% over last year. And last year we had a total number of sales of 438, which is a record for us since we've been tracking these. And we're on a pace for 483 sales this year, which is up considerably. A larger grand list is going to lower the tax rate, and if all the other factors remain the same, that's going to keep people's property value. I mean, it's going to raise people's property values, but keep their tax burden at the same rate. And these updates will provide a more equitable distribution of value and a more accurate representation of value for buyers and sellers and lenders who rely on these numbers in their day-to-day work. That's all.
Are you discussing about the increment per year, the $10,000 in between?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And did we cut that, Jay? Did we?
I'm sorry.
Oh, we did cut it.
50,000. Okay.
All right. So
Okay.
so it's the $10,000 per year increment. That's
Yes.
in between. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mark Tate. I'm the Director of Information Technology. There's several accounts that were dropped and several funds that were cut. I was just wondering if I could just bring to your attention what the intent behind it is and why the funding was set up that way. The first one is GIS in the restricted fund. The reason for that increase last year was $5,000. It was requested for $30,000 for the upcoming. Is we're going to be doing the inventory of all the drainage throughout town. Now, currently, they do everything manually, paper-based systems for MS4 reporting and for other systems as well. So we're looking to automate that, and to do that, we need the base data. So we actually need to go out, we need to identify the catch basins, identify where they are, where they go, and all that, and that's what that money is for. That is actually, the original quote for the project was $60,000, but we're able to drop it from 60 down to 30 by doing a couple other methods of data development. Additionally, on the police side of things, because the IT department oversees the police department as well, all the money for the police MDTs, the computers in the cars, were cut. Originally, the request was made for $80,000 to the planning board, and then it was cut by the town manager, and now it's cut down to nothing. The technology is older and failing, so we're looking to replace it, get things up so that our officers have the tools they need to do their jobs. Another thing that was cut was the Munis training. It was in the IT department, professional service, professional development. It was for $10,000. Currently in this organization, we haven't had anybody that's gone to Munis training directly from the company itself. And we also haven't had somebody with that level of expertise review town processes. So the intent was to have a trainer come on site, train the staff so we can learn how to better use the software, and also have them review business processes so they can help us run more effectively and maybe get better use out of the software and our investment, because we do have a really big investment in Munis, about $120,000 a year. In the professional development and the town manager's line, that was also cut from $30,000 to $0. That is for additional certifications, trainings. I know myself, I'm looking for to go forward with Six Sigma training to focus on efficiency gains and things like that. Funding in that line was towards that, and also other development for other department heads as well. So it's difficult to keep on top of the trends as they come out. That training money helps us keep better on the edge, and also helps us better understand how technology and other things are changing. Because in the municipal world, things do change every day as well as it does in the technology world. And it's hard to keep our edge when we're not, when we don't have that professional development. And the last thing is the cut to technology townwide. That was from 25 down to 15. What that funding is for is currently in this building, we have wiring left over from the 70s all the way down to current, all the way up to current. So we have a bunch of different technologies, a bunch of different quality of wires. We're looking at upgrading the phone system to what's called a VoIP system, and we need to have the network wires done to a certain level so that we get good quality of service out of it. And that's what part of that money is for. The other part of it is we're looking to have a training room that we can do class training for staff in technology. We've had a lot of changes. We have a lot of other things coming down the pipe, whether it be office training, whether it be new software, whether it be database design, or whatever we decide to go with. And right now, the only available place that we can use is over at the school, and that it takes and adds about an extra hour, hour and a half to a training day. So it really becomes an entire day of training. What IT is pushing for is we want to have training sessions maybe an hour by themselves. So a staff can come down, they do an hour of training, they go back to their job. You don't have to drive to a separate location, you don't have to go through a security checkpoint, you don't have to do all that. And that's what that money was in there for. So we have the space, we just need to get the technology in there and polish it up a little bit. Thank you very much for your time.
I have some questions.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. So regarding the Munis system,
Mm-hmm.
how many employees work with the Munis system versus how many need to be trained of it? Do you know?
I don't know the total Munis users off the top of my head, but I know that there hasn't been anybody that's been professionally trained.
Okay.
It's all been, they've come on board and figure it out.
And it's only for accounting, or is Munis more than just accounting?
Munis does accounting and utility billing. It also does our employee self-service. There's a lot to it.
Okay. And there's no one who's already on staff, even though not certified, cannot teach the other people how to go about doing it?
Nobody with the experience of what the trainers have. So the trainers go through and they know the software inside and out. That's what they do for a living.
Sure.
What we have on staff, we've learned online and we've tried to figure it out, but there's nobody with that skill set on staff.
Okay. And the money for that, is that under the IT or under each individual department's training or professional services allocated for it? Do you know?
That was in the IT budget is where it was
In the IT
proposed.
budget.
We try to centralize all technology into the IT budget so it makes it a little more straightforward.
Okay. And then, let's see what else here you mentioned. The VoIP. Did you do price comparisons between the current telephone system and bringing in a whole new system? I mean, obviously the phones work, so what was the reason for doing the change?
So part of the issue that we run into, and that's getting absorbed through other cost savings, so it's actually going to be a zero, is what there's a small increase of like about $5,000 in with phone and telecommunications costs. So we're actually looking at it as a cloud solution. The problem we have is the phones we have at all different sites are of different ages. I have one site that has phones left over from the 90s that if it breaks, I don't have a replacement for. The one here, we pay about $3,500 a year for a maintenance contract, and that doesn't cover majority of the things because the stuff we have is left over from the 90s. It's not replaceable. So
Okay.
when it goes, it goes.
Now, when the telephone system, or I should say VoIP is based on internet, correct?
VoIP basically is voice over IP, so it lives on the data network.
Okay.
And it lives on the computer network, basically. How you get out and how you connect it varies, so you can either have dedicated lines or not.
And what is the phone system that we're on? Is that directly with the phone company?
Yes, so we have what's called a PRI, which is a big chunk of lines dumped into a PBX system, and that's what everybody has their wires run to their desks.
Right. So what happens when the network goes down, which they tend to go down, whether it's ours or someone else's, and no one can be reached by a regular phone system? What's the precautions?
So with the VoIP side of things, there's two different things. One, we have redundancy built into the network, so it'd be very difficult to take the entire network down. I mean, if we lost a switch, we have enough spares, we just shift it over to another one. The system we're looking at actually has failover, so if it loses connectivity to the site, which is supposed to be 5.9's the highest quality connection you can get coming into the building, if that goes down, you can configure it to a failover to a mobile phone, to a landline. The software we're actually looking at has an app that you can load on your smartphone and it's just like you're sitting at your desk.
Okay. You've answered. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to ask a couple quick things.
Yes, sir.
You were kind of bouncing around, so I was trying to keep up with, so you mentioned the GIS. Is that the GIS funding that's in the restricted programs?
Yes.
Okay. And the Munis training, I believe, was...
Munis
you might
training
have
was in
it.
IT.
It was either in finance or IT.
Yep.
Professional development, I believe, you're talking about the town managers?
That was in the town managers, yes.
What I show is that was cut from 30 to 15, not from
It was covered.
30.
Oh, I apologize. I thought
Not
it
from
was
30
down
to
to nothing.
0. And
Maybe your development got cut, but
and then you mentioned one other item in between there.
Sure. The police MDTs, the police computers, that was
Okay, is that-
unrestricted as well.
Is that the one that was under police
Oh, it was under capital.
radios?
Apologize.
Huh?
Sorry.
I'm just trying to figure out which account what was it listed under as a restricted program?
Was it? I apologize. Was it restricted or capital? Okay. Okay. Yes, I apologize. It wasn't under restricted. It was under capital. And it was police computers or police car computers.
And I think just as a quick response, understanding that we want to fund technology and training, we were in a fairly difficult position from the point of view of having to especially find one-time savings, because we have this big increase in the OPEB funding for this year, and that's why, unfortunately, a lot of the restricted and capital programs got cut back quite a bit on a one-year basis at least. And that there did need to be some adjustments within each of the individual accounts, but I appreciate your speaking on behalf of those, and we will talk further about them.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Any other staff members wishing to speak? The first name on the members of the public list is Robert Lombardo.
Thank you, Robert Lombardo. I want to speak about the police pension issue. It's been in the paper quite a bit, and I want to debunk the false statements that are coming out and try to show you what a common run-of-the-mill fraud that the town manager is pulling on the town of Westerly. It's despicable. I've written many emails to the town council. They've mostly gone unheeded, so I've CC'd Mr. Goodman on some of these, and I thought it was important, since I had CC'd him on some of my correspondence to the town council, that I come here and present it to you, because I think you're all intelligent enough to see through the fraud. I'm going to take my time. I apologize for the time, but you need to understand this. I will tell you, I've had Mr. Gagne, Mr. Silvestri, Mr. Aiello, and Mr. Marone in my office, and I've explained it to them, and they all get it, what happened. None of the other town councils are interested, but this is a huge $1.5 million fraud by Mr. Kennedy. I'm going to start at the beginning, 1993. That time, police officers, when they were hired by the town of Westerly, received health care for their families till the day they died. The problem was, as you know, in 1990s, the health care started to shoot up, and it became a problem for the town to support these pensions. The other problem that happened is Mario Celico. Mario Celico had been married. He was retired, getting full retirement health benefits for his family. He started a new family. So he had more children. And then that added another 21 years onto the town's liability. And the solicitor at the time, Joe Turo, who I interviewed for several hours on this to understand it, said our actuaries wouldn't write us a report because there was no end to the costs of the town. They needed to get the town expenses for retirement health care under control. So, in 1993, they said to the police union, the town of Westerly, Joe Turo was the attorney, you're not getting any more health care upon retirement. There was an arbitration case. It went up to arbitration, and the arbitrator sided with the town of Westerly. Said you do not have to pay police officers their health insurance upon retirement anymore. I want to read this. I didn't put this in, but I want you to read it because this was a big case back in 1993. Police officers had always gotten retirement benefits till they died. But this is from the lawyer, Thomas McAndrew, to Joe Turo, August 27, 1993. Didn't send it. I'm going to skip to the second paragraph. This award represents one of the most significant achievements that any community in the state of Rhode Island has achieved, and that is the elimination of health care benefits for individuals hired in the police department after July 1st, 1993. The economic effect of the elimination of this provision is most significant. And as you well know, it was. A full family plan is expensive for the town of Westerly each year. Officer might retire at 40, 45, till the day he dies. Huge. Therefore, if you go downstairs, and I didn't make copies, but if you go downstairs like I did and looked at all the police contracts from 1993, there was a simple paragraph. If you were hired before 1993, you received health care benefits till the day you died. If you were hired after 1993, you received nothing. Zero. That remained the same, and you can check yourself. I spent a lot of time on this. I got stymied by the town, Mr. Oliverio, didn't want me to have the information. But I went downstairs, and you can look at yourself. And at that time was beautiful because what they did with the contracts, unlike what Mr. Kennedy does, the town manager would give a summary for the town council what the changes were between the contract. 2 pages written out what the changes in the contract were. Mr. Kennedy doesn't do that. Also, the solicitor at the time would sign off on the police contract. You can go downstairs, a letter. I've reviewed this. It's okay. That doesn't happen anymore. Mr. Oliverio did not sign off on it. It's unclear whether he looked at this contract. We have a solicitor in this town who sat here and told the town council that he would be a labor lawyer. I mean, this is the joke about attorneys. They can tell you they're anything. You have no idea. But he sold himself as a labor attorney. I doubt he knows anything about labor law, but I don't think he looked at the contract. He couldn't be bothered with this contract. And when I'm talking about this contract, I'm talking about July 2016 that Derek Kennedy did, and he's never done a contract. I guarantee it. He has no idea what he's doing. It's a joke. Anyway, 2004. I want to tell you about 2004, what happened. The union's getting to the point where most of the union in the police department were hired after 1993. And there were less police officers hired before 1993. Sean Lacey was the police union representative. I talked to him. He said, well, we knew at that time that the younger guys were going to take over the union and they were going to throw us under the bus. So what they did was the union went in and said, the guys before 1993, we'll pay 10% of our health care costs. In return, give the guys after 1993 $6,000 a year maximum. Got it? This is the way the paper described it. The New Westerly Sun described this, and they did a very good job. I'm going to use them. You can do your own research on it. It's downstairs. But I think the way the Westerly Sun described it in 2004, was very good. If you bear with me, here it is. Again, we had Joe Turo back as the town manager now. Bright guy, you should talk to him. Of course, nobody wants to talk to him in the town. Anyway, Here's what the paper said. The newer officers, those are after 1993, will continue to pay 15% of their health care during retirement, with the maximum premium contribution from the town capped at $6,000 a year. All officers must use any alternative health insurance available to them through their spouse or employer after they retire from the police officers. The older officers made a significant contribution. They accepted a significant copay in order to provide retirement benefits for the younger officers. So the town didn't care. The town got something from the old officers, and they gave something to the new officers. Is that clear? Crystal clear? That was the balance. 7 or 8 police officers that had been hired before 1993 retired before this went into effect so they wouldn't have to pay the copay. But it balanced. We're still talking 1993 where the town was realizing significant savings in health care costs. Joe Turo, I talked to him, he said $6,000 was a number we could give our actuary and we could be certain that it wouldn't be any more than $6,000. And as you're going to see, it was a lot less than $6,000 because these guys that retired went on their wife's plan. It was costing the town $100 to $200 a month, okay? But you had to wait because in 2004, you're at 20 years. 10 years. You had to wait another 10 years because in 1993, if you're hired in 1993, 20 years is 2013. So after 2013, the town would start to realize some of this incredible savings they were going to get. And as an example, I provided you with this document. It starts with, it's an email from Gina Brancato, there were 3 officers that retired before this new contract in July went into effect. 3 officers that were hired after 1993, worked for 20 years for the town of Westerly, and then retired just before this contract. 3 of them. And I've got the 3 here, I'm assuming. And I asked the town, can I provide me with the letters that you provided the officers when they left? Because I would think that the town would provide an officer when he's leaving or she's leaving saying, these are your benefits, these are what you get. Nothing. They say they don't exist. So what I have here, if you look at the first one from Gina Brancato to Sharon Kitchen, says, thank you so much for your help. I'm attaching what I so far about the insurance payment. Brancato didn't have insurance, so they went off and got insurance. It cost $519 a month. The town reimbursed $500. You can look at the receipts. Brancato was $500 they paid, so that was the maximum. And you had to provide the town with the town with the information on how much more it was costing you. So if a husband got on the wife's plan, it cost more money. You had to prove that to the town before they paid it. So Kenneth Brown paid $108. The town had to pay that. $108. And Gilman, $176. And I use their names. I don't mean to embarrass anybody, but just so you know, three police officers retire, and 1 they pay $500 a month to, and the other 2 are just over $100. Still savings. Still a huge savings. That's it. So I went and talked to Derek Kennedy, and I want you to. I gave you a copy of the old contract, and the old contract makes it very clear. If you've got this one, page 23, section D. I'm going to read it to you. It was clear. Employees hired after July 1st, 1993. Retiring at least 20 years of active service as a Westerly police officer will pay 15% of the cost of health coverage. But the town will pay a balance up to a maximum of $6,000. Only $6,000. Then, the next sentence, which is the critical sentence. Any amounts in excess of $6,000 shall be borne by the employee. Crystal clear. I went and talked to Derek Kennedy when he negotiated the new one. As you know now, they get insurance plus $6,000. He wiped out in the last contract 20 years of waiting for the town to recoup these beautiful benefits. He gave it away. And I said, why'd you give it away? He said, you can't read. That's what he told me. You can't read. And I said, Derek, what are you going to do about this sentence? Any amounts in excess of $6,000 shall be borne by the employee. He did this. Get out. So how did he get it past the town council? How did we go from a maximum of $6,000 a year per retiree to now we pay for health care plus $6,000? How did that happen? I didn't know how it happened. I had John Gagne in my office. We're arguing about it. And I'm saying there was $6,000 the maximum. He said, no, it isn't. I said, what are you looking at? What he looked at was the fraud. And this is why you can't trust this man, and anything he says should be discounted. He's a liar and a fraud. Do you have the red line version that I sent you? Page 20. Page 20 of the red line version. How he got around it is he left that sentence out of the red line version. He hid it from the town council. He knew he made a mistake, and a better man would have admitted his mistake, because this is what happened. He realized in negotiations he had offered them too much. He had offered them health care plus $6,000, which basically puts us back to square one. Health and care plus $6,000 is about the same amount of money you're going to get for a police officer who was hired before 1993. Exactly the same. He went back into negotiations and said, I made a mistake, I want it back. They said, no. You offered it, we accepted it. He had a choice right then to make. He could have told the town council, I made a mistake. They would have rejected the contract, and they could have gone back and renegotiated. But he didn't. He decided to lie to the town council and keep it off the red line version. I have never, ever seen a red line version where they keep the most important sentence off to hide it from them. That's what he did. That's the type of man he is. I don't know how anybody could believe anything he says. Read it yourself. Find the sentence in there, the red line version. It's gone. That's how he handled it. And I just found this out recently. Now, police retiree example. Oh, by the way, the orders are from Oliverio. This doesn't get out. It's already out. But Oliverio's told the town councilors I talked to not to release it. Okay, it's privileged. They don't want you to have it. It's out. They can't hide it any longer. That's what we're dealing with. Don't make no mistake, Matt Oliverio does not work for the town of Westerly. He works for that man. He takes about $200,000 out a year, and he signs the checks. Now, if you see the police retiree example, that's this one. It's pretty clear. It's an extra $6,000 per year per retiree till they're 65. That's your $1.5 million. Do the math. Close to it. The fraud had to be completed, though. He couldn't use the old actuary. He needed a new actuary. And I've contacted the old one, and hopefully they're waking up. But they've been slandered. The old actuary would have known these numbers were wrong. They would have known them. But a new actuary doesn't know what the old numbers are because he provides them with wrong information. But, and I don't know, and as you've seen, if you look at the police officers, they're assuming $6,000 a year under the old plan, and that's true. That's what you can assume. That would have been the maximum, but it wasn't going to be close. Now we're up to $12,000 because of him, and he wants to tell you it's because of the old actuary. That's the problem. No, wasn't underfunded. He just increased the liability with one swipe of his pen for $1.5 million, and he lied about it. And he's lied to you about it. He lies to the Westerly Sun about it. He lies to everybody because he's an insecure little man who can't admit he made a mistake.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Lombard, I would just ask that you bring it around toward, this is a hearing on the town budget, and I understand that the OPEB is in there, and there's an increase. That's why I've given you a lot of latitude to talk about it, but could you bring it more toward,
All right, but it's you know, to watch it, I mean, I do criminal defense, so I know the hustle. But anyway, I will. But getting back to this actuarial report, I sent it to you, right? That information on the top is wrong. The actuarial report, they didn't get that. They didn't look at the contracts to get that. They got it from him. This thing that you could either get 15% retiree contribution if employee elects coverage with the town at retirement, that's not true. It maxed out at $6,000. So you could take the town, but the maximum was $6,000. We've doubled that now. Doubled it. Everything's wiped out because you can't take this away now. You're going to have to wait another 20 years. 20 years to recoup this. Because if you go to arbitration, any police officer on the force right now is always going to get health care till he's 65 and $6,000 plus. You can't take that away. We waited 20 years in this town, 20 years to realize these savings, and he took them away. In 6 months, they got three officers. That's all that you're going to get savings from. Now we're going to have to wait 20 years. The final straw is this. I don't know if you know it. It's tucked in the back of the contract. In 2014, I believe, Jim Lathrop, who was the finance director, set up a plan for the police officers because they were complaining that they weren't going to get retirement benefits or health care. So he set up a health savings account for the officers. This money, John Gagne said to me the other day that this is officers' money. The officers say it's not their money. This is town money, a lot of it. And he didn't take it away. So now they get insurance, plus $6,000 a year to use for family, plus this amount of money for health care, because he didn't know what he's doing. I don't know how to say that nicely, but this is a windfall. This is town money. I'm not adding it all up, but it's a ton. These guys are going to get it on retirement. You can't take it away now. That's him. So all I want to make clear is that this idea that the last actuary, I mean, I don't know if they did a good job with setting how much the fund would grow, but they weren't way off. All of a sudden now you have $1.5 million worth of liability. How does that feel? 20 years they were waiting for savings, and now you've got this, and to hide it from you, he's got to blame it on the actuary. And I've got the old actuary. I am working to get them involved because I don't think it's fair. It's not fair to them. This is a slander job. And so I would ask you to do whatever Derek Kennedy ever tells you, to make sure you look at it very carefully. I don't know how anybody could ever listen to him and believe it when he go to the extent of not putting a provision, a sentence in a red line version to hide it. And when I went to talk to him about it, he could have given it up then, but he told me I couldn't read. He can't read. And he did we're going to be paying this for years. This is not, you can't just take this away next time. So we're in trouble. But it's not fair to the police officers either, because all you're talking about is how the expense is for police officers, and they're upset. This is not there's nothing wrong with the pension. It might have been a little underfunded. Maybe the old actuary was a little bit too optimistic in the returns. I don't know. But you've got $1.5 million you need to put in there. He wants you to put it in without knowing why it's in there. I wanted you to know. Thank you.
Next on the list, David Jepson.
Good evening. I'm the artistic director of the Granite Theater. I'm sorry? Certainly. Yes, I'm David Jepson, the artistic director of the Granite Theater. I'm here with one of the board of directors, Chris Donahue, and one of the company members, Paula Bulliu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm representing the Renaissance City Theater Incorporated, which is the nonprofit producing entity of the Granite Theater, which owns and is the steward of the 175-year-old iconic building that is the Granite Theater. We mount 8 major productions a year, roughly 130 performances. We have a mailing list of 2,500 and a faithful 500 subscribers, and we also attract tourism. We survive, as any theater, through ticket sales and individual donations, and especially that of donations from Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, Washington Trust, Latner Family Foundation, the South County Hospital, Pfizer, the state of Rhode Island, and most recently, Valenti Subaru. We've received support from Senator Dennis Algier, Representative Sam Azzanaro, and over 13,000 customers a year become aware of these contributions. We'd like to add the town of Westerly to that list. Around 2011, we sent a letter to the then town manager requesting information on financial assistance, but never got a reply back, and it kind of went to the back burner. In 2014, we tried again in a letter to Michelle Buck, who said we missed the November 14th deadline, but she would put us on a list to notify us for the fiscal year 2016-17. As per instructions, we submitted to Marissa Iannelli a request for $8,770 for the fiscal year 2016-17, but heard nothing. November 8th, 2016, we submitted again for $4,000 in financial assistance, but found that the request was not on the agenda and not included for the budget for the fiscal year 2017-18. And we're wondering, is the town no longer reviewing new requests annually? Are there any patrons on the financial board here that have been to the theater? If not, I encourage you to stop by and see what we do there as we enter our 17th season. Thank you.
Next name, Christopher Donahoe.
Thank you, gentlemen, for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of... Oh, yes, Christopher Donahue. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on behalf of RCTI. I was born in the Westerly Hospital quite a few years ago, but my parents whisked me away to Pawcatuck. However, because Pawcatuck and Westerly are so intertwined, I came back 5 years ago to, after I retired, I lived in Boston, and realized, my gosh, what a town this really is. Look at that library. Look at the marvelous thing they've done with expanding that and keeping the architectural integrity. Look at the restaurants that are booming. Look at the art association on High Street. And look at that Granite Theater. Well, having acted there at the age of 16, when it was the Theater Workshop of Rhode Island, or Research Workshop of Westerly, I went in, and sure enough, it's like, my gosh, look what happened to this. 8 shows a year. Very few towns have that. Even around us have that kind of incredible cultural icon. And what's more is that we know it has a cultural, it increases the cultural stuff here in the town, but it also has an economic impact, which I hope you're aware of. Now, I was Director of Public Relations at Boston University, and one of the things that PR has always talked about is that advertising that you don't pay for, which is true. And in my hand, I have, I think you may have seen it in the Westerly Sun, Nancy Burns-Fazaro wrote an article about how we Westerly managed to be on the 50th beautiful towns in the United States. What? Okay, here's the deal, and I'll just quote this quickly. One glimpse of Westerly, and you'll soon realize why this coastal town made the cut. A seaside community on the South Shore, Westerly is well regarded for its pristine coastline, but there's more beauty to it than its sand and seas. Discover rows of grapevines just a mile from the water at Langworthy Farm Winery, and gaze at the regal white columns of the Granite Theater, which was originally a Greek Revival church organized in 1843. Now, the RCTI is also stewards of that historic building, and we've repaired the columns. We've gotten grants to do those kinds of things, and I think it's important that the town be part of that. So I'm just supporting David's asking for us to be maybe put back into a line item. Any questions for me? All right, thank you very much.
Next, Paula Burlett. Tried.
Paula Brulette. I don't know what I can say other than to support what both David and Chris have mentioned about the theater. I'm a new transplant to Westerly. I've lived all of my life in Massachusetts, and my sister had lived in Rhode Island, so I have been part of the Granite community over the years through her, coming to see performances. I've also been in Massachusetts on a finance board, so I understand how difficult, and for the town manager, how difficult it is to put a budget together, especially in these really difficult financial times. But you look at a resource, as has been mentioned, as the Granite Theater, something that the building itself is iconic in downtown and certainly puts on programs that are supported by the community. I don't know where this fits into the budget. I'm not that familiar with the budget yet, but I'm here to say I think that there is a place in local governments to really support those pieces of the community that make it what it is. And I think certainly the Granite Theater over the years has proven that. So I don't know that you'd have any questions for me because I can't add too much more, but.
I would like to make a comment. Don't leave just yet. When I first met Paula, when she told me that she was on a budget committee in Massachusetts, I knew my term was up for 1 year, even though it wasn't going to roll over. I wanted her to put her name to go for the applicant. Somehow, her name got taken off. My argument about the Granite Theater appearing today is because somehow what happened last year in procedures didn't happen again this year in procedures. And I don't know why every year it seems, and I've only been here now twice now, 2 sessions, I don't understand why nothing is consistent in continuity of the same procedures. You know, last year we got 990s from everyone. We got reports to say what they were going to use it for. This year we didn't get anything for the subsidiaries. My point being is, and bring it to your attention, nothing is consistent. And so I'm going to keep pushing this till we find out. And back to Mr. Lombardo, we questioned it. I just saw some stuff from there that I can't understand why we've been requesting it and can't get it, but this gentleman can do the homework and get it. So we've been doing all this, we've questioned everything, but we don't get any answers. So duly noted, thank you for coming out. David, thank you for coming out. But it's more because the continuity of doing this budget is always irregular.
Yes, I would just note that we did, last year we saw all requests. This year we did not. And I understand that there were no new requests that were brought forward. In the subsidy, it was level funding of all others, but I do back up, and we did raise that. Did we ever get we were supposed to get the thumb drive full of data with all the information, so we never got that. So that's difficult for us to make any kind of value judgment. I mean, judgment period, let alone value judgments on what should or shouldn't be funded. So I concur with that. We have one more who's on the list, Dan Reynolds.
Good evening. My name is Don Reynolds, and I'm the director of the Westerly Senior Center. I'm here this evening in support of the center's request of an increase of $5,000 of our current $55,000 subsidy. Over the past 10 years, the Senior Center has been dramatically hit by the poor economy, and specifically by cuts from the state of Rhode Island, which have amounted to over $54,000 each year in lost revenue. Since the submission of our subsidy request to the town in November, we've received word from the State Department of Elderly Affairs that the governor's budget, if passed as is, holds another $4,000 cut for the senior center. We're also quite concerned that an increase to the state's minimum wage will drastically affect our budget. During the past 10 years, the center has fought to maintain its stability by cutting back to a bare-bones budget, by reducing staff by 3 positions, by eliminating Saturday programming and meals, thereby reducing staff time, and by increasing fundraising. Additionally, none of our hardworking staff have received a raise in those 10 years. Despite the state cuts, the increased fundraising, and the poor economy, we find the need for our services continue to be strong. During the past year, close to 4,000 different individuals utilized senior center programs and activities, which includes our daily meal program, health program, social and recreational activities, and social services. With the advent of Medicare D and changes to the overall health care system, we've seen the need for direct counseling to our seniors and their families increase tremendously. Over 9,600 service units were recorded by our site to our elder information specialists, insurance counselors, and volunteers. We are proud of the fact that we continue to meet our mission despite the economic issues we have faced. We're also proud that we're the only non-town run senior center in all of southern Rhode Island. And when you look at comparable towns in our area, North and South Kingstown, each town expends over $500,000 to run their centers on a yearly basis. So we feel we provide a decent quality service while saving the town money. We appreciate the support the town has provided to us in the past and hope that you'll consider our request. If you have any questions. Thank you.
That was everyone who was on the list. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak? Okay, if not, I will close the public hearing portion of this meeting. Looking for I know the next one was public comment, which is, as I mentioned, redundant with the public hearing, so I assume no one wants to speak who hasn't already had the chance. Which really takes us to other business, which would be what I got, I think, was request for reinstatement of funding for the annual revaluation, the munis training, the GIS funding, which I believe is under restricted programs. Professional development funding, townwide IT, Granite Theater, and the Senior Center. Most of those are $10,000 to $15,000 increases. I'm troubled, and I've raised this kind of question as we've gone throughout our review process, because clearly the single biggest portion of this budget is a $1.5 million increase in the what's called OPEB, other post-employment benefits, from $400,000 to $1.9 million. And I've reviewed the actuarial report. And from what I understand, it was done for fiscal year 16, which would have been under the old contract that was referenced. And in the review of the notes, it references, for instance, virtually verbatim the language of the old contract of the 15% of the premium which existed under the old contract, and the limitation of $500 per month. But then it also incorporates a portion, and this is kind of a key assumption to the whole actuarial report, which is half of the employees would take the town health insurance, which would require what they refer to as explicit subsidies and implicit subsidies, which they come up with at about $1,600 per month. And so it seems that there's, I think, some question with regard to the conclusions that the actuaries came to in the number, and that goes directly to the request, because we've stood by the whole time the idea of funding fully that request, and that number comes directly out of this actuarial report. Because I think if they didn't use that kind of mixed assumption, which seems to mix the old and the new contracts, there would have been some increase, because there were some differences between the old and the new actuary in terms of their assumptions, but it should have been substantially smaller. Now, further confusing the issue is the fact that we now have a new contract which has higher costs in some areas and lower costs in other areas, because post-65 retirees receive no benefits when before they were receiving some. So it kind of puts us in a very difficult position, because we're defending fully funding this portion of the post-employment liabilities that there seems like there's some questions about, and it's having real impacts, because we're in a situation of trying to, I'm not sure how we can go even fund some of the meager increases we're talking about without finding the money somewhere else, because we're already at a 2.4% tax increase, which is higher than I would have liked us to get to. I think we were trying to get to 2%. Does anyone else have input, thoughts?
Well, if that's what the actuaries are saying, we almost have to fund it at their recommendation. And if there's an issue where the council wants to do that or not, it's, in the end, will be their decision, because they're the ones who are going to have to live with the consequences. they're the ones who are going to have to face the voters in less than in about a year or so with that on their record. So this is what the actuaries are saying. We can say maybe it's not that, but in the end, that's what they're saying, and that's what we're going to be judged on financially by outside agencies.
Yeah, I think we have to go with the actuarial report that we're provided with, regardless of the contracts. They've incorporated the changes in the contracts, and we have to fund the amount that they recommend. I don't think we approached as that was, we fund that amount, we built the budget around fully funding that. I don't think we want to step into not funding the pension at the amount that has been suggested by the actuaries.
Do you want to make any comments regarding what Mr. Lombardo said about you? No? Personally, I feel like saying, how much does the town manager take, and divide it by 5,000 and start paying it that way, but obviously we can't do that. It's on. I made a bad remark, so I won't repeat it. However, we've questioned this. It stands out like a major red flag. When I asked for information from town council or anyone else, no one responded. So, personally, I would go back to the police department. They don't want to be bad guys? Well, go back to it. If he can't correct it, then do it that way. But I'm against it. I would say build it up gradually. There's no reason, just because an actuary report, we go through this with the bond rating also. You know how I feel about that. Just because some third-party organization says you have to do it, there's nothing in writing that says we have to do it. It's a suggestion. Just like our suggestions to the town council is to do this. It's meaningless. So, I disagree with you guys.
I wouldn't say our suggestions are meaningless. They certainly can be changed. I certainly agree with that. And I acknowledge that we, from the beginning, were supportive of the idea of fully funding OPEB, which, regardless of what the number was, had been significantly underfunded, and that was going to catch up to us eventually. I think we can note in our report to the town council that questions were raised about the actuarial report, and certainly we can, we'll be putting a draft together, and you can certainly, I'll seek comment from the group. Another place to potentially consider is we were given a school budget with a zero increase, and increased it by $58,000. And if you look down the list of requests here, we really are in the ballpark of 50, 60,000, which, while it might not be much, might make sense to consider restoring or increasing some of these requests. In particular, the annual revaluation, 10,000. I'm just mentioning what we have. So Munis training is 10,000. That's 20. IT townwide, I show it being reduced from 25 to 15. Is that accurate? Senior center, 5,000. That would be 35. Professional development, 15,000, and the Granite Theater, I want to say that the request was around $8,000. I don't know, but I seem to remember that there was.
It's 8,700. Can't see anymore.
It's 8,770.
Right, and then 4,000 they missed down again.
So if you add those all up, it adds up to $58,770. The amount of the increase in the school budget was $58,775.
Which brings me to my next thing. I just found out that we don't have to go line by line items. We can just make a motion to decrease the school budget down to zero. And so I'd rather make a motion right now if we can do it, and then let them reverse into whatever they have to do. You want to make the motion? You're good at it. Oh, all right. So I'd like to make a motion to bring the school budget down to a zero increase from 58,775. However, just FYI, there may be some errors which I had found today, so we'll duly note that we might have to correct that. But for right now, I'd like to make a motion for 58,775 decrease from the overage that we originally planned to zero.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there support for restoring, or in the one case, increasing funding for the requests that I identified? Do we want to go one at a time, or is there support for any or all?
Well, I would make a motion to support your recommendation regarding VAL, the Munis IT Senior Center in Granite.
So that would be IT townwide.
That comes to 58.
Well, to get to the 58, it would also be the 15 in professional development
And in professional development.
and the 10,000 for annual revaluation.
I did, I included that. Yeah, I forgot the 15.
And I'm doing this in my head, so I think they add up almost identically, which would make things maybe a little simpler from the point of coming up with a tax rate.
Okay, so I made the motion.
Second.
Discussion. Is there any way to confirm that the numbers that I'm mentioning are, I'm not kidding.
Balancing. Why don't you just say restore at this point, and then as long as we know we're going to restore it.
We're going to restore $58,770 to the town budget, which we believe equals those individual requests, and if they don't add up exactly to that, then we will make other adjustments. So what we should end up with is effectively a zero impact on the bottom line. Other discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else?
The animal.
Yeah, I wanted to, I kind of forgot about that request, but we didn't touch the request on the animal shelter side. So you got, assuming, I believe it was that small increase in the number of hours was in there, so that remained in there. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're done. Thank you.